Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We're your home for Caribbean weather, and it's great to see you on this Monday. I hope you're doing well. Since we've changed the format of the channel in the last couple of months, more than any day during that time frame, we have the most problems going on across the Caribbean for today. You're going to find all that information scrolling at the bottom of your screen. So many watches and warnings and marine advisories. We have a lot of wind kicking up the seas. We've got some flooding issues, and we've had some healthy storms as well. We'll get into all of that and look at your tropics. As always, I love to hear from you guys. Hope things are well on this Monday. Let me know where you're viewing from. Let's get started with some healthy thunderstorm activity for today. And that's going to be for our friends in Jamaica to begin off the video here. And it's not just some rain. It is some showers and some breezy thunderstorm activity. Montego Bay around a 40-mile-an-hour wind gust earlier as some of those thunderstorms rake through. This is what it looks like in the enhanced satellite imagery here. We've had a couple of clusters of thunderstorms developing on the northern coast and then trying to work their way off towards the south. So places like St. Mary and Portland parishes trying to swing back down towards St. Elizabeth, on over towards St. Andrew and Kingston, Portmore and Spanish Town. Some scattered showers and storms. Some of that will be some healthy rainfall as well. Of course, you see your 5-day forecast scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Thunderstorms are also developing in the western parishes from St. James to Westmoreland and Hanover parishes, interior sections like Cambridge, then off towards the coast. There's that thunderstorm wind gust towards Montego Bay, decent lightning in Lucy, Negril, and Saville-Lamar. So an area that has been fairly plagued by drier weather, not just the last week or two, but for a good portion of 2026, seeing some healthy thunderstorm activity. If you guys have caught some of that in Jamaica, please let me know in the comments section below. We'll move on right now to the winds. That is the next big story here, guys. And I got to tell you something. Jamaica's had some thunderstorm wind gusts for today, but look at the rest of the wind gusts across their area. Some of that has come in the form of some good shower activity. Others have been just some hot and dry winds. We're seeing a few thunderstorms develop over portions of the Dominican Republic and Haiti for today. Port-au-Prince has had nearly a 40-mile-an-hour wind gust. Again, some thunderstorms coming off of a higher elevation and then developing towards coastal sections like Lacaille. Can't rule out a couple of isolated showers or storms across the Dominican Republic, but a little bit drier forecast there for Santo Domingo and Punta Cana. You notice in the Ponce forecast, there's not a lot of rain in the next couple of days for us here. First of all, the big story for the Virgin Islands in Puerto Rico is going to be the heat advisory that's in effect. Feels like temperatures are likely to be at or above 100 degrees in some locations. I'll put on the heat indices right now, and there you go. Ponce's feels like temperatures today above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a hot, it's a dry wind that has been 30 to 35 and even 40 miles an hour from time to time. Again, I can't rule out an isolated shower, but there's not a lot of moisture in the atmosphere at this point in time. So it's a hot, mainly dry forecast with a heck of a lot of wind. An isolated shower possible here in the northern side of the Leeward Islands. Look at St. Bart's for today, a 40-mile-an-hour wind gust. And again, a light passing shower here or there. We continue to see breezy conditions for Guadeloupe and Dominica, kicking up sea conditions from time to time, especially down in the Windward Islands. And very interesting as well, we got these Van Carmen vortices coming off of places like Guadeloupe and Dominica. If you're a meteorology buff, you get these what we call vortex shedding, or these vortices coming off of the higher elevations there on the trailing end of that. Not as visible today as yesterday, but a really interesting phenomenon if you want to check that out here by looking at some of the visible satellite imagery. We'll drop it back down to St. Lucia and the Windward Islands, where again, elevated sea conditions from time to time. We have some marine advisories for places like Barbados. Some of the seas in the open waters are getting up to 3 meters, they're getting up to 9 feet or higher in places like St. Lucia and Barbados and the Atlantic side. So please keep that in mind for our boaters and our small craft fishermen as well. We have a little bit of Saharan air coming back into TNT, and that's going to be a big story over the next several days as well. And then you're looking at just outright windy conditions with elevated seas again. Bonaire, Curacao, Aruba, Oranjestad for today, a 40-mile-an-hour breeze. Several different forms of marine warnings in effect for the ABC Islands. We also have the large wave and strong wind advisory that continues for all the coastal waters of Jamaica and the offshore waters of the southern coast, including Pedro and Morant Banks, and those areas again get up to 3-meter swells, so keep that in mind. We do have the opportunity for some flooding, especially in Costa Rica, elevated sea conditions off the Caribbean coast of Panama. Again, you'll see that information in the bottom of your screen. Central American gyre is still quite active. It's throwing some thunderstorms up into Nicaragua and Honduras for today, an area that could use some shower activity, and it's beginning to break out a little bit more. We've had some heavier downpours from time to time in this area over portions of the weekend as well. La Ceiba up to a 30-mile-an-hour wind, so just seeing an activation again of scattered storms, and some of that on the heavier side as we get deeper into this Monday afternoon. Quiet forecast for our friends in the Cayman Islands, drier conditions as you get up to Cancun and Cozumel. Beautiful day in the Bahamas. A few isolated storms are just developing at the hour on the far northern sides towards Abaco. Kate rolled out a couple of thunderstorms across Grand Bahama as well, potentially even towards Andros, New Providence, and Eleuthera, but the chance is fairly low. The bigger story here is also the heat, where we continue with a heat advisory. You know, temperatures right now are going to be in the upper 80s, lower 90s, but it feels like temperature in Freeport today went over triple digits, close to that in the Nassau, New Providence area, and then into the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Not only is it hot, but there's also a Saharan air advisory, and that's really going to be the next big story for our area here, is that the Saharan air is going to take over, and it is going to be a factor for us here, not only for the early part of the week, but as that Saharan air layer moves west, it's going to encompass a good part of our area. It's going to choke off some of the potential for some rain. There's still going to be some good showers out there, but when I show you the water vapor imagery, again, we do have some areas where we have moisture-laden air and thunderstorms, but a lot of the central and the eastern parts of our area, despite the winds, right? Despite the 30 to 40 mile an hour winds, there hasn't been a ton of shower activity. And it is the Saharan air layer that's playing a big factor in that right now. Let me take off those 5-day forecast for right now, but look at this big plume coming in through the week, and by the weekend, it works its way into the Northwest Caribbean and the South Central side of the Gulf. So it's just going to push its way east to west. You're going to continue to see elevated opportunities for strong breezes with this. Hazy sunshine, respiratory sufferers could certainly have an issue with this, and it's a big enough plume where I don't expect it to, you know, get in and out of one area very quickly. It's going to be a situation where I do expect us to have some problems for a time. All right, now we're going to get into the rest of the forecast. As we do, thanks for taking a quick second, hitting that subscribe button for me. You want to join a fantastic community, you want your daily forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, my friends, you have found your home. You got all the information down below. We've got your 5-day forecast. Now we have your marine interests for the rest of the video. You're going to get tidal information and the maximum wave heights for over 25 areas, and your water temperatures as well, which in many areas are beginning to creep back up to near 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So remember, we have wiped off the first name of the Atlantic hurricane season. It was a weak tropical storm, but Arthur has gone by the wayside. Now Bertha is the next named storm. And the big question, especially in an El Nino, is we can get a homegrown storm in the Gulf, maybe Western Atlantic Basin, generally weak in nature in June. How much more down the road is it to get the next named storm? Well, I got to tell you something. First of all, we are lining up a tropical wave train across the intertropical convergence zone and the monsoon trough in the East Pacific. There are 5, 6, 7 tropical waves, I think even one back here on this map. Now, they're still fairly low in latitude, but they're getting stronger, they're producing more moisture, and they're beginning to impact our area more. That's one reason why places like Jamaica and Panama and Costa Rica have seen some active weather for today. So how is this going to play out? I'm going to go back over to the enhanced satellite imagery here, and you can see these tropical waves on that enhanced satellite imagery. They are certainly more defined than what they have been. Now, it still takes climatologically until August for these in the Atlantic Basin to really get rolled up. However, we're just talking about potential for tropical development. We're talking about moisture in the atmosphere and providing better rain chances. And there's the next one that's about ready to enter the Windward Islands. Fresher winds will continue across this area. I think marine interests need to keep in mind over the next several days, and more impact for showers and some potential thunderstorms as well. Certainly tropical moisture slamming into the Caribbean coastline of Central America and the Yucatan. That's building in the showers and storms. We're likely to keep an eye on the East Pacific over the next 7 to 10 days for the better chance for tropical development here. And at this point in time, things are quiet in the Gulf and the Western Atlantic Basin. When we look at the European ensemble members over the next week, it is a clean run. That is good to see. From time to time, you'll see a couple of little blips on the map there in the East Pacific, but overall, we're looking pretty good. If I extend this out through the first week of July, the European ensembles, same member, but we're just going, same model, but we're just going farther out in time, does have a very high chance of tropical development in the East Pacific. And interesting, the first week of July, potentially something trying to develop off of the East Coast of the United States. Again, it is these areas where we do have the best chance of development early in the season with an El Nino. There's a lot of wind shear in the Atlantic Basin and throughout the Caribbean this time of the year. Now, things will always come together from time to time. It's not like we're not going to have activity. We've already had one named storm, but it's good that we're fighting that shear. But the problem, of course, is that we got a lot of surface winds that are 30, 40 miles an hour, and that's not going to change anytime soon. I'll show you that coming up. Let's look at what's happening right now for the rain. So we've taken a look here at what's been happening with the tropics, and tropically, rainfall-wise, good downpours, but nothing that's going to be organized. So the rain outlook looks like this. Scattered showers will continue over portions of the eastern side of our area, just like the situation has been the last couple of weeks. In a general sense, the farther south you live in the island chain of the Lesser Antilles, the better opportunity for rain you're going to have. TNT, Grenada, slightly better chance. I'm going to include the Grenadines and St. Vincent and Barbados, St. Lucia, all within that kind of somewhat elevated rain chance overall. But you get up towards Martinique and Dominica, Guadeloupe, and especially Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Saint Eustatius, Montserrat, on over towards Anguilla, rain chances are relatively paltry here. And again, we've had a few showers from time to time, but you guys saw earlier in the forecast video where the 5 days aren't showing you a ton of rain. Nothing's going to be very concentrated. When we look at the rainfall totals, you know what I'm talking about. Anegada, Virgin Gorda, Rotown, Tortola, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Again, it's more about the heat the next several days, including San Juan on over towards Arecibo and Aguadilla. Please, if you are if you're not tolerant to the heat, you got to avoid the midday afternoon. Make sure you drink plenty of water as well. Stay hydrated, my friends. Scattered showers over Santo Domingo and Punta Cana, but again, not too concentrated. After some decent rain here in Jamaica, I think we're going to dry out a touch the next couple of days. We're still looking at the opportunity for a couple of isolated, localized showers. It was great to see the rain a little bit more widespread across the island today. We'll see how it plays out over the next couple of days. By the end of the week, we could actually see rain chances begin to improve again. But again, that tropical wave axis is moving off to the west, which should at least initially bring in some drier air. Heavy rain continues for Panama, Costa Rica, scattered storms for Nicaragua on up towards Honduras. Rain is in the forecast for places like Roatan, Utila, Guanaja, on over towards Belize City, Chetumal area as well. Can't rule out, again, some local heavy downpours from time to time. The rain has kicked up the seas as well. Small craft advisory is in effect for coastal waters of Belize. And again, you'll see that in the information down at the bottom of your screen. Looking like a pretty good beach forecast for Cancun and Cozumel. Bigger story across the Bahamas is still going to be the heat the next couple of days, but a weak system could sneak its way into the northwest Bahamas by midweek, providing at least a little bit better chance for some showers there. When I show you guys the winds, and I'm going to take these vector plots and just make them a little bit bigger, purples are over 20-mile-an-hour winds, 20 to 20 knots, 25 knots or higher in the pink. Look at the winds across the Caribbean for the rest of the week, basically, right? East winds, 20 to 25 sustained, and some higher gusts. That's why I think we're going to continue to have a problem with the boating forecast. When we look at the rainfall totals over the next 5 days, there's only a few areas that could see some locally heavy downpours. And again, it's going to be southern sides of Central America working its way up to the coast. Belize will be included in this for a time and could even sneak into the southern sides of Quintana Roo, back down into the Windward Islands. A few areas could see a few inches of rain. There's the next weak system coming off the United States East Coast, could spell some rough sea conditions near Bermuda and a little bit higher rain chances. But notice again, even that best chance for showers on our map is slightly north of the Bahamas. So I do expect there to be passing showers, but really the big story the next several days, Sahara dust and the wind. That is the big takeover. And because the winds are going to be elevated, sea conditions are going to be outrageously high. Significant wave heights are likely to be 8, 10, even 12 feet in portions of the Caribbean. So you're looking at 2.5 or 3+ meters, which is why we have all of the marine advisories that are currently in effect. I expect there to be additional ones for the Lesser Antilles, potentially Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands on the Atlantic side, and we can even see some of the exposed waters here off of the east coast of the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos get back into some more serious swell activity as well. So again, talking about what's happening across the area over the next several days, showers and storms breaking out in places like Jamaica, back to the southern sides of Central America. Thunderstorms are trying to get going right now in the Bahamas, and then it's about the wind right now. Take a look at these wind gusts across the area, 30 to 40+ miles an hour, and that doesn't change. The big Saharan plume coming in is a story that I'm going to be following for the rest of the week. Thanks for taking a quick second, hitting that like button for me. If you got a question about the forecast, drop it in the comment section below. I hope you like the new and improved Meteo Mundo. I'd love to hear from you guys about it. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I'm back tomorrow with the latest forecast. Take care.